Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. There's a part of me that wants to be more deeply annoyed with this week than I actually am. Oh look, another album bomb week that's just small enough that I have to cover all of it. And it's all the more frustrating given that it's coming from DJ Khaled's newest album that seems to have already exited the critical and cultural conversation. But there's a part of me that can't be that angry with DJ Khaled anymore. At least his motley collection of songs, they might wind up interesting in both their successes and failures. And let's be real, this is what he does. It's more of a mimetic money laundering operation than an album statement, and the real problem is that people just keep on buying into it. Now, thankfully, it doesn't really impact our top 10, where it looks like for a second week we have the remix of Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande holding on to number 1 by a thread, slipping off the top spot in sales and only barely eking out its lead in streaming thanks to YouTube. Make no mistake here, if Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic can close that gap as it currently leads radio with stronger sales, it would move up beyond number 2. But even then, Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon, it's in the conversation too at number 3. Yeah, the sales are weaker, but it's got more radio momentum and better streaming, if not better YouTube. And even right now, it looks like Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby could make a run here beyond number 4. Sales have risen, streaming and YouTube are holding their own, and it's got that next wind of radio traction. This really all just becomes a margins game from here on out. And it kind of leaves Kiss Me More by Doja Cat featuring SZA on the outside looking in at number 5, because even despite great streaming and YouTube, the sales traction is kind of lukewarm, and they just don't have that strong radio presence here yet. And it's very similar to the issue with Rap Star by Polo G down at number 6, where the radio has been even slower to get on board and the sales just aren't there to prop up the massive streaming. But people are buying Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf at number 7. Its rise in all channels has been pretty slow, but consistent, and again, I can see this going higher, even if that god-awful remix with G-Eazy and DDG might do more harm than good. And on the topic of spikes I didn't want to see, Without You by Kid Laroi is now in the top 10 at number 8, mostly thanks to a big remix with Miley Cyrus that just illuminates how much massive radio this song has accumulated along the way, with a big boost on sales. Very telling how relatively quiet the streaming and YouTube have been though, almost like this ripoff has industry connections like having both parents work in the music business or something. I think there might be a term for that. Anyway, it pushes back Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X down to number 9, where the streaming and YouTube are still solid, but the radio and sales are just not propping them up enough. And this takes us to our biggest debut this week, Your Power by Billie EIlish at number 10. Now, I'll talk a lot more about the song itself later on, but I will say I'm a little bit surprised it didn't break in higher. She really came through on YouTube, but outside of streaming, it looks like radio and sales have lagged a fair bit to get on board, so it wound up at number 10. And I gotta wonder whether or not this song will get that sort of sustained traction. It doesn't really jump out as an obvious hit. But that takes us to our losers and dropouts, where it seems like deceptively a lot happened. Now when it comes to our dropouts, there was a solid bit here. In what looks to be missing the year-end list, we got Wasted on You by Morgan Wallen, Long Live by Florida Georgia Line, My Head and My Heart by Ava Max, and right on the borderline, Damage by Her. Whereas nabbing their spots, we got Anyone by Justin Bieber and Willow by Taylor Swift, but also For the Night by the late Pop Smoke featuring Lil Baby and DaBaby. And in most of our losers, they're just album bombs that are fading away naturally. From Moneybagg Yo from last week, we got Time Today down to 41, Shada's Lala at 62, Hard for the Next with Future at 72, Go with Big 30 at 80, and If Pain Was a Person at 96. But then from Young Thug and Gunna, we got Ski at 48 and Solid with Drake at 52, and then from Rod Wave, we've got Richer with Polo G at 91. The rest here are kind of scattered. What's Next by Drake slid down to 45, Botella Tras Botella by Jeremih and Christian Nodal skidded off the debut to 76. Somebody Like That by Tennille Arts went down to 78. They're really rotating this out quick. And La Noche de Noche by Bad Bunny and Rosalia slid down to 86, as it looks like it's on its way out too naturally. Now, as expected, in an album bomb week, we didn't really get much in the way of gains or returns here. Hell, the only song that really came back was the bottom feeder, that is Hello by the late Pop Smoke and A Boogie with the Hoodie at 98. And let's just thank God that DJ Khaled's Drake collabs from that album did not come back with the album bomb. But in our gains, once you factor out Without You, I'm actually mostly positive on all these. Made for You by Jake Owen hit a new peak at 32. POV by Ariana Grande continues to rise at 55. For the Gang by 42 Doug and Roddy Ricch looks like it's swinging around at 83. And even Blame It On You by Jason Aldean rose off the debut to 87. Overall, that's pretty solid. I can't complain that much. But I can complain about our lengthy list of new arrivals. Strap in, folks, because we gotta start off with number 100, Thankful by DJ Khaled featuring Lil Wayne and Jeremih.
When I get out on my knees, I'm thankful. I'm bloated bad for everybody who counted me out, and I still got love for all my dogs who holding me down.
Hey look, we're starting off with a DJ Khaled song actually produced by DJ Khaled. Now granted, in his usual fashion, it's riding a painfully obvious sample flip with the synth horns and the electric guitar, this time off of Jay-Z's Heart of the City, which has his own painfully heavy-handed sample flip, but that was Kanye doing it in 2001, not DJ Khaled's increasingly flat-sounding lack of dynamics in 2021, where Jeremih can't blend with the choirs at all, and the crescendo just does not have all that much impact. It sounds really cheap and clumsy, and that leaves me hoping that Lil Wayne of all people can save this, and yet somehow on a song that's all about humility and being thankful, Wayne drops the bar, be proud, be shameless. I mean, somehow it feels like everyone missed the message here, including DJ Khaled, who to cap it all off seems to have forgotten to add drums to this song. It's not good. Next, number 97, Tampa by Cico P.
I'm on hygiene codeine, I'm on float like a fountain. Baby, need some protein, work out like a dancer. I got all the hoes in the snow, just like Santa.
Another week, another frustratingly one-dimensional trap song viral on TikTok. Although with Cico P, it feels like this should go harder than it does, especially for a Texas rapper. But no, the melody feels very wispy, the beat has some knock, but it doesn't feel overstated. In fact, I actually think the mastering of the song is actually really good, and Cico P has his one very tightly multi-tracked melodic flow where you will not be able to tell the difference between the hook and any of the verses. Now, I'm not going to deny that it is mostly catchy. I get why it went viral for that one line in the second verse, but you go further beyond that and it's really thin with its drug and gun references and how the girl has cakes like a pamper. Funny thing is, by the standards of a lot of songs like this, I actually don't mind it at all, especially in terms of its production and its vibe, but it might wind up feeling a little too low-key to actually work and stay viral. I'm not sure how long it's going to last. I mean, it's not bad, at least while it's here. Don't mind it. Number 95, Single Saturday Night by Cole Swindell.
Red lips working on a white claw, shaking to a little, shook me all night long, and I thought, man, what a beautiful sight.
Hey look, it's a song that dropped nearly a goddamn year ago that's only now getting chart traction. Presumably because Cole Swindell might finally be prepping to roll out that next album. And wow, if this is what he's gonna go for, he's gonna be fighting an uphill battle between the snap beat, the oddly blocky drums, and the trap-inflected skitter of the drum machines, the warbling melodic touches, and how the hook is clearly punching for some heavier impact with some of the clumsiest production I've heard in a while coming from him. And you know, I don't know why I'm disappointed here. Cole Swindell's biggest problem for years now, since really the very beginning, has been his inconsistent production and a painful reliance on anonymous cliches, and guess what the lyrics are, imported straight from the bargain barrel bro country. And yet somehow I am. I thought this guy started turning a corner in 2016, where he seemingly realized that the subgenre was dying beneath him, and yeah, his approach to it was very messy on both that album and the 2018 follow-up, but this just feels lazy and really derivative. In other words, he's back to a bad square one. No thank you. Number 90, Final Warning by NLE
Don't
Choppa.
get into that, we leaving that to the informants. Don't inform me about who informing, that's your final warning. 76 to sting like a bumblebee, he start transforming.
So look, I'm no fan of NLE Choppa. That's been obvious for a while now. But given that his production and personality has gradually picked up a little bit more refinement and focus, and his lyrics feel a bit better constructed, I'm just not sure what to think about him anymore. Yeah, he flubs a rhyme on the first lines of the hook, but at least the shuddering bass knock is mixed a little better opposite the pianos. And NLE Choppa playing into a straight, gun-toting villain role, it's at least a bit more distinctive in comparison with the more conscious and thoughtful rappers out of the drill scene today, even if you can tell that NLE Choppa does not quite have the same wild intensity he used to have, given all the rubbery, auto-tune backing vocals behind him. Now, the one notable set of bars here is telling the Broward County Police to, and I quote, lick my nuts and suck on my wood. And that's a bold statement to the police department that had arrested him on gun and drug possession charges. Now he's out on bail, but he claims that they set him up. Now you'd think there might be a little bit more detail on the song to support that claim, but NLE Choppa might just be shrewd enough to keep some of that out pending more legal cases. Anyway, the song's fine, but I'm still not really impressed by this guy. There's a lot of rappers who do his particular shtick a fair bit better, so let's just move on. Number 85, Durag Activity by Baby Keem and Travis Scott.
Durag Activity. Durag Activity.
Okay, the last time I talked about Baby Keem, I was not at all impressed, mostly because he came across as thoroughly unlikable and lacking the unique personality to match up with the okay groove he had on Orange Soda. Well, now he has even less presence, spending half of his hook calling someone a big stench, and then complaining about his friends not sharing their women with him, even despite the fact that he doesn't seem to like any of these women anyway. But the bigger focus here, it really is Travis Scott, both in the off-key melody and a lot of the shuddering tap of the production. It's a lot more of his sound, trying to recreate some of that eerie vibe. And yet I feel like I've heard this verse from him a dozen or so times, where there's some sort of demon girl who does all of his drugs and spends all of his money. And you know what? This many years in with the guy, there's just not enough to stay all that likable, especially when his verse is stuck carrying the majority of the song and there's not much to it. So yeah, this wasn't at all fun or good. And you know what? While we're there, number 84, Big Paper by DJ Khaled featuring Cardi B.
Big haters, big paper, so I deal with big haters. Got it out the mud, they ain't do me no favor.
Okay, of everyone I expected to work with DJ Khaled on this album, Cardi B absolutely makes the most sense. Stopgap to fill time before whenever that album is gonna drop. She's got the sort of outsized personality to fit with his production, but it's Tay Keith handling the majority of it this time, aiming for the very stripped back, pattering bass and bell accented synth, and wow, this isn't fun at all. Again. Part of this is that I don't think Cardi B rides this beat all that well, especially with some of her own stuttered flows. But it's also a mo money, mo problems flex song in the vein of what Nicki Minaj used to shovel out in the mid-2010s that I never liked. But I'll say it, Nicki can sell that sort of imperious vibe a little bit better. The punchlines, they might be here, but they're not quirky, they're not funny. It's a sort of braggadociousness that's had very limited returns coming from Cardi B, because it doesn't fit with her sense of populism. So even with the acknowledgement that this is targeting a different audience, aka not me, it's both awkward and feeling like it's cashing a paycheck for DJ Khaled rather than making a decent song. So no, not good either. Number 79, Body in Motion by DJ Khaled featuring Bryson Tiller, Lil Baby, and Roddy Ricch.
Got me intoxicated. I'm gonna feel your way. You should reach out and take it.
Why do I get the feeling this song was built for a different artist on the hook? Yeah, I know DJ Khaled has thrown Bryson Tiller on songs that seem out of his comfort zone. Wild Thoughts springs to mind. But in this case, it feels like he doesn't quite have the energy to ride this faster Spanish guitar back shuffle, where the song is going for more of a sinuous vibe, especially when he's drowned out in so much auto-tune here. And even though I think Lil Baby is mostly okay, even he sounds a little bit tired in his chase of this girl, especially if so much of it just involves buying buying her things. I guess Roddy Ricch sounds a little bit more enthusiastic and his bars are a bit more colorful, but it also falls into similar horn dog territory by the time he's shouting out about wanting a bitch who wants a bitch who wants a bitch. I'm left thinking that this should be a fair bit better than it actually is. I mean, the production and hook is likable, I'll give it that, but again, should be better. Number 73, Country Again by Thomas Rhett.
For the places that I've been, man, it feels good to be country again.
I'm a little bit surprised that nobody had put the newest Thomas Rhett album on my schedule for On the Pulse on my main channel, especially as the buzz has been that it's going in more organic or neo-traditional country sounds, which isn't really surprising given the acts that have gotten traction in recent months with those sounds on the mainstream, but hey, I'm not about to complain if it adds a little bit more flavor beyond Thomas Rhett's beyond one-dimensional last album. And with this as the album's title track, honestly, it's got potential, but it's the details that really screw this over. Yeah, I like the fiddle, I like the banjo, I like the warmer acoustics, but the vocal tracking feels way more processed than it really should, and the live percussion takes over way too late to get over the drum machines that open up the song. And then there's the content. I'm not against making the whole coming home to the country song, recapturing one's roots, especially when Thomas Rhett makes it very clear that he wouldn't actually trade the LA experiences that he's had. But you know, there is just a part of this song that's just as list-driven and lacking the storytelling that's put his better songs a cut above, and that is notable. And when he's referencing Eric Church in the second verse, just makes me wonder why I'm not listening to the best cuts off of Heart and Soul again, even if, again, Eric Church has his own little estrangements from Nashville these days. I'm not saying the song is bad, but compared with the best songs on the album, maybe not the best choice of single, could have been better. Number 67, Ramen OJ by Joyner Lucas and Lil Baby.
Back to thinking my ex was my soulmate. Back to telling myself it'll be okay. We'll be okay. We're surviving on Ramen and OJ. Shorty paying the bills, I had no say.
You know, there's a part of me that could be very petty with this, especially given how much Joyner Lucas has dumped on the melodic trap scene as less lyrical miracle and saw his own badly managed career implode multiple times as a result. But you know what, if the music wound up okay and he saw the light with Lil Baby, who was more thoughtful in this sound and a little bit more lyrical, I was willing to give this song a chance, and honestly, it kind of works. The trap skitter feels cheaper than I would like, but the swells of watery keys and bells are well balanced. I like this melody, and both the rappers are sharp as hell in riding this beat and handle their own melodic passages pretty well. I do wish there was a little bit more visceral hunger from the both of them. The gunfire that splits apart both their verses is very welcome. And you know what? The focus on the hard come up, it's very tried and true material for the both of them, especially on the hook. But the wordplay is pretty sharp, and if this is the turn to get Joyner Lucas on at least better footing going forward, I'm not gonna complain. So yeah, it's a solid song. I don't mind this at all. I'll take it. Number 54, Let It Go by DJ Khaled featuring Justin Bieber and 21 Savage.
Let it go. Let it go. Oh God. Let it go. Let it go. Oh.
Okay, only 4 more DJ Khaled songs before the end, and here's a guest collab that baffles me. I get that Justin Bieber's had a pretty consistent working relationship with DJ Khaled, but why put him on a song with 21 Savage, who honestly seems just to be a little confused to be on this song to begin with, and then drops a pretty standard verse about hustling and success that doesn't really match with anything. Now granted, the entire song feels kind of awkward and undercooked, with the burbling, angular synth playing off the spare percussion, which is just enough foundation for Justin Bieber to spout a lot of platitudes about just letting go of the things you can't control. But again, it's not really a relaxing song. It's bumpy. It doesn't really flatter anyone. And yet, bizarrely, I don't think it's bad. It hits this weird uncanny valley where it's just catchy and inoffensive enough to not really hit any bad nerves. Maybe all the flaws just cancel each other out. I mean, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying it should be worse. I'm kind of okay that it's not. Number 43, I Did It by DJ Khaled featuring Post Malone, Megan Thee Stallion, Lil Baby, and DaBaby.
I did it. Got my hands in the air right now, cause I just want to hear right now. I did it. 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 I did it.
This was the song that from a lot of my friends got the most attention, and I kinda get why, starting with the very obvious sample of the guitar line from Layla to anchor a trap rock fusion that is such an obvious anthemic plug behind all the artists behind them that I was almost able to overlook how overcompressed the entire mix feels, especially the percussion. And you know what, if you're able to ignore how Post Malone sounds bizarrely anonymous and lacking any sort of bite or personality on the hook, all the rappers deliver with a lot of defiant force and solid flows. Again, nothing out of their comfort zone in content or delivery, and yet it's Megan who's getting the backlash for not changing it up enough. Very telling, rap fans. But anyway, it's probably the best thing we're going to get from DJ Khaled's charting singles. And yeah, I'm actually including number 30, Sorry Not Sorry by DJ Khaled, featuring Nas, Jay-Z, and James Fauntleroy.
Living the dream, yeah. We the best music!
There was a time when a Jay-Z and Nas collab actually meant something. Or at least it would if I lived in New York or was invested in their sort of long-running pettiness. And that's kind of the problem. It's a song like this is coasting on legacy from both rappers coming together with another big Jay-Z sample and jacking the title from a bad Demi Lovato song for James Fauntleroy to sing through all the auto-tune. And if you're not enamored with the legacy, I'm just not sure there's much here to really work with. Nas calls himself the cryptocurrency Scarface. It's about as awkward of a line as you think it would be. Jay-Z brags about his billions and then compares himself to Jesus and how despite everyone trying to kill him, he spreads his gospel. And look, I just cannot care about two moguls taking a victory lap. It's got the same sort of haughtiness I didn't even like about the Cardi B song, and it's not populist. It's lazy bragging, relying on its glamour rather than actual content, and it sampled song cry to do it. In other words, just about as pointless as the last Sorry Not Sorry. Not a fan. Next, number 20, Every Chance I Get by DJ Khaled featuring Lil Baby and Lil Durk.
My wrist. All these hoes fuck on us all, I wish I would claim that bitch. They get hard when they get guns, we got a hood full of sticks.
You know, I get the feeling that Take Heat should fight for more credit on more of these songs, given that when it comes to the production, his fingerprints is just as much as DJ Khaled's, especially with the harder snares and the swampy bass rumble over the glossy melodic loop. That still leaves the entire song feeling overcompressed. Guess that came from DJ Khaled. But hey, Lil Baby is trying a little harder here to bring more intensity, and I'd argue the severity fits the production, even if he's gonna regret getting that overdone watch that hurts his wrist. And you know, Lil Durk makes sense here too, even if his vocal quality sounds like it was imported from a different studio. And I do think this is kind of lightweight subject matter coming from the both of them. But again, that's kind of the point. It's a flex. At least from these two, it feels more grounded in the reality where they still very much are, which helps make some of the hunger sound convincing. So yeah, solid song. Not the best of what charted from DJ Khaled, but I guess I'll take it. And finally, number 10, Your Power by Billie EIlish.
But heaven is so strange.
I don't know how to feel about Billie Eilish's new single rollout for this project. Granted, her last rollout was kind of unconventional in terms of what singles caught fire and which didn't, but My Future has been long gone, and Therefore I Am always felt like a bit of an attempt to recapture the meme of bad guy. It's good, but not great, so this feels more like the proper lead-off single, and, oh yeah, of course it's really damn good, but a bit of a shift from what I was expecting. It's primarily rooted in an acoustic line with very subtle touches of percussion around her, and of course it's mastered by Phineas in a way for Billie Eilish's hushed delivery to really take center stage, and that was absolutely the right decision, because even though there's not a lot of distinctive details to these lyrics, there are layers to parse through in this song, exploring the dynamics of an abusive, and drawing on her own unfortunate experience, underage relationship with a lot of even-handed complexity. She speaks from the position of someone who was taken advantage of, to feel like that she was the bad guy even as he was trying to assert more control and gaslight. But then she does a very interesting thing in trying to flip the script and trying to dissect why someone would manipulate and abuse, examine his insecurities and his ignorance and his fear, and just how much of it was trying to preserve his own power and his own security, especially if his career could be jeopardized with any of this stuff coming out. And I really like two things she does in the hook. Firstly, by implying that having power is strange, given that she herself herself now has some power and might understand some of the temptation, but also by ending the song with the statement that power isn't pain, which shows that even if she might be sympathetic to some of that struggle, there's still very much a responsibility to each other that supersedes your own individual angst and wielding any sense of power, which shows a lot of maturity to get back to that point. And suddenly I feel like this could work really well in a Rick and Morty episode. Just think about it in terms of themes, it really gets there. But yeah, easy best of the week goes to Billie Eilish for Your Power here. Honorable mention to I Did It by DJ Khaled featuring Post Malone, Megan Thee Stallion, Lil Baby, and DaBaby. Hey, sometimes you throw enough talent and names into the mix, you get something workable. Worst of the week though, I'm giving that to Durag Activity by Baby Keem and Travis Scott. It's just the most unpleasant song here, not one I want to go back to. With dishonorable mention going to DJ Khaled and Cardi B for Big Paper, mostly on disappointment alone. Cardi B can do so much better, and this is really not helping her momentum going into that album. But next week, seems like we might get a bit of a breather before J. Cole crashes through with his own album bomb in a couple of weeks, but I've been wrong plenty of times before on this. We'll have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum.